Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all my friends to the show that once again gets to do a season wrap up earlier than we wanted to, Scott. Born on the Bayou Sports is officially in mourning.
Absolutely, Tim, and you can hear the soft tunes of the Doors in the background as we start this conversation.
Oh my God. I don't love it, Scott. I don't love it, but before we get all the way into it, let me ask you an opening question. In light and theme with what CJ Stroud did on Sunday, to you, what is the greatest Houston sports letdown of your lifetime?
Oh, that's an easy one. I think I'll go with 2 because I'll go with the baseball one and I'll go with the football one. I think the baseball one is easy. That's the 2019 World Series. I mean, that's the greatest. I mean, to me, I don't care what anybody says. That was the greatest team in Astros history. Top to bottom, pitching, hitting, they had everything. And they just couldn't win at home. I don't, I just can't understand that. I never will understand that. Now, obviously, the football one you did not witness. That was 35-3 against the Buffalo Bills, losing 41-38 in overtime. And you could see it happen. It was like a car crash in slow motion, Tim. I mean, you could see it, and you're just powerless to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine have been alive. I was alive. I think I just wasn't a football watching fan at 2 or 3 years old, but no, couldn't imagine that one. The 2019 World Series is definitely up there, but I'm going to take you back 15 years prior, Scott, to the 14 years prior to the 2005 World Series, our first appearance, where not only were we swept, every single one of those games was lost in excruciating fashion, right? Like game 1, you go to extra innings, and a guy who didn't hit a single home run in the postseason, Scott fucking Pasegnik, takes Roger Clemens deep in extra innings. You're just like, what the fuck? Game 2, Pettit pitched pretty damn well. Bullpen loses that game. Game 3, Roy Oswalt's absolutely cruising. And then out of nowhere has like a blow-up 5th inning for like 4 runs, then goes back out for the 6th and shuts it back down like it was nothing. And we lose 4-0 that game, I think it was. And then game 4, like Chris Sampson, I believe it was. No, it was Brandon Backey.
Yeah.
Pitched an unbelievable game in game 4, and then we still somehow couldn't generate any offense. And so it was like each one of those games was heartbreaking individually to lose. And then all of a sudden you look up and you were just swept to the only World Series appearance you ever had. So that one sucked. And I'm going to put the 2019 Rockets right up there with you, Scott, being up 3-1. Then Chris Paul gets hurt. Then you missed 27 straight 3-pointers, including at least 1 or 2 that should have been fouls, but Scott fucking Foster determined otherwise. But yeah, like not only do the Rockets choke, not only do Houston sports teams choke, they do it in such spectacular fashion, Scott. Like, what were we up on the Chiefs? 24-3? I think we were up on
24-0.
24-0 on the Chiefs, 27-3 or something like that. The 27, either way, right? Like you're up 24-0 on the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and you lost that game, and it wasn't even close. We give up a fucking 50 spot that day, if I remember correctly.
We were down by the half.
Yeah, like it was, even when we were up, like I was celebrating, I was amped, but like I never felt secure in it because I'm a Houston sports fan, right? Like University of Houston was up with a minute or two left in the national championship game. Do you see me having a replica ring or trophy anywhere back here, Scott? Because I fucking don't. I don't, because we blew that one too. That one hurt like a motherfucker. So yeah, like the Astros 2015 playoff appearance, right? Where you're up 2-1 with a chance to close it out at home. And
you're
they
up
blew that.
Yeah. No, and I watched the 83 national championship game, U of H, and that one was a bigger gut punch than last year's championship. Because that Houston team was absolutely loaded. And they actually changed the basketball rule because of that game.
You know, you get a couple Hall of Famers on a college team together. Next thing you know, who would say which UH team would have beat which one? I would kill to see Kelvin Sampson coach against Hakeem and Dream. I mean Hakeem and Glide. Like I would kill to watch like last year's team go against that team and be like, all right, Juwan Roberts, get out there, brother, and shut down Dream. Like, what, coach? Nope. Tough physical D. That's what we do. Don't give up. Play tough. Shut down Dream.
Well, that form of Dream, you actually maybe had a chance. Because that was before he really had, perfected the Dream Shake. I mean, if he was 1990s Dream, you'd have been like, okay, just, don't even try. But, that team was absolutely loaded. And there were guys that were fringe NBA players that were absolutely fantastic college players that would probably be the best player on U of H's team now, that were the third or fourth best player on that team.
I don't know if you've met Kingston Flemings, my friend, but best freshman in the nation. Come on now.
Michael Young was
a baller. Don't get me wrong.
Alvin Franklin was a great point guard.
I'm just gonna tell you when UH and TCU play, keep an eye on the man named Kingston Flemings, and you're gonna leave that game putting some respect on that man's name, Scott.
I would have paid money to watch Jamal Shed go up against Alvin Franklin. That would have been a great matchup.
I'll tell you this right now. You know how much I love Jamal Shed, and that should tell you how serious I am about this. Fleming's better. I love Jamal Shed, and I love Jamal Shed more for what he did for the program and everything about that. Fleming's better. Like Kingston Fleming is he's going to be a top 5 draft pick after this year if he doesn't want us to come back. But he's already scoring 20 a game and like dishing 5-6 assists, plays defense. Like he went to Kelvin because he wanted to be ready to play in the NBA. So hey, Rockets, if you're listening, I was right about Jamal Shed. And I'm going to be right about Fleming too. I'm pretty spot on about college point guard, Scott. That's a little. I'm really my eye for college point guards, college quarterbacks, and I'm really good at judging shortstop talent as well.
I was going to say, Tim, I don't think the Rockets will be picking in the top 5 in the next draft. Just guessing.
No, if we are, then things have gone terrible. We could acquire a pick in the top 5. But
we may have one of our pick swaps. Maybe I don't know. I'd have to.
I think we do have a pick swap this year.
Have to dive into it. But the Nets are actually. What was it? Pick swap with Phoenix or with the Nets?
I think Phoenix.
And Phoenix is not terrible, so they're going to be a middle of the first round kind of pick. But okay, we've belabored this enough here, Tim.
Cue your music again, Scott. I think it's time to.
All right, I got you. I got you. Hold on. There we go. Is that
just let it wash over you. Just let it happen. Like CJ let shit happen on Sunday. Scott, that was probably the most frustrating football game I've ever watched in Houston Texans history. And that includes the one where we had a 24-0 lead on the Colts and gave up a 50 spot and lost by 30. That includes the one where Jacoby fucking Jones fumbles a punt return in Baltimore. That includes the one where we go to the Patriots after winning a first round game against the Bengals and get the doors fucking blown off. All right, you can turn it off now because it's vibrating on your mic stand. But no, this playoff game. I mean, last year's game against the Ravens was frustrating, but you knew like, okay, that's the end of Bobby Slowick, right? Like you felt it. Like there's going to be consequence for this. Like we're better than this. Can't play like this. This year, it was as bad as any playoff quarterback has ever played in the history of this game. And Kaylee's going to be back, and probably rightfully so. I mean, he didn't do anything to lose his job in that game. And the guy who maybe shouldn't be back, in CJ Stroud, they've already came out and said he'll be back. We're talking about if, we're going to pick up the 5th year, we'll look at an extension, everything else. And, Scott, I've been a CJ supporter. I've called the Mills Mafia crazy. Like, Davis Mills wins us that football game if he comes out in the second half.
Well, at least he gives you a better chance. And what kills me about you look at the stat line and that doesn't even tell you the story, Tom. Because we've lived through it. You remember Brian Hoyer?
Yeah.
He threw like 5 picks in that. Was it 3 picks or 5 picks? I can't remember.
The first half against Kansas City, we were only down like 3-0, and then they go like 34-0 real quick.
But everybody knew Brian Hoyer wasn't the guy. Everybody knew that Brian Hoyer, and he was coming off a concussion a lot closer in time than CJ's concussion, in reference to that season. To me, it wasn't the 4 interceptions. One of them was a typical, the receiver got his hands on it, couldn't quite reel it in, tip ball, okay.
That was a bad throw, though. He missed high on a wide open slant.
Yeah, but that was a typical NFL interception. It's a little bit off target. The receiver tries to make a catch, can't reel it in. I go like, okay, right? But the other 3, Tone, are just god awful. It's like, every one of them, we're sitting there in our group chat, for Battle Red Blogs. What the fuck was that? Like the one on the sideline, the first one, I'm like, he overthrew the guy by like a good 10 or 15 yards. It's like, who are you throwing it to? And to me, the if you take away just the pick 6, which was what in the hell are you doing? Kind of play. That's 21-16. And that's still giving the Texans 4 turnovers. I mean, you're in that football game. And who knows how you play that game differently if you're only down, going into the half 14-10 versus 21-10.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, but Scott, his accuracy was so bad that he got Cade Stover hurt on an incompletion. Like
not an ACL, thankfully.
Thank God. But he's missing people by so fucking much that dudes are spraining knees trying to plant and turn around and get to the football. The decision making, right? Like on the one that was the pick 6, everybody knows that the ball was supposed to go to Stover, right? Like Stover falls down. What do you do right there? You fucking eat it. You throw it directly into the ground. You maybe try and pick up as much back as you can and slide. What you don't do is just chuck it up in the air and hope for the best, right? Like you don't make the hero play. And, you and I have talked about on off air about how hard it is maybe for CJ to understand his role in the offense. And he actually talked about that at the podium that, this week after we discussed it, where, he basically said like he's learning that he doesn't have to push the ball down the field and all this other stuff. But where's the quarterback coaching in that? Right? Like, because I think at the end of the day, what's truly frustrating is you had a guy who year one seemed to understand how to protect the football. Only threw 2 picks in the first year. The whole fucking year. 2 interceptions. Set the record for the longest streak to start a career as a rookie without throwing an interception. This was a guy who understood how to protect the football and could still drive it down the field. Now, I understand Nico was out. I understand that Tyus Howard, gets hurt. I understand all those things, and I understand the running game sucked. But at the end of the day, you have to protect the football. And in year 2, he got worse. He got hit a lot. But this year, you can't use that excuse. He had a middle of the road offensive line when it all grades out. He got hit less this year than he did last year. The line was better this year. It wasn't all pro, but it was better. So you can't sit there and say, oh, he's gun shy because he gets hit all the time. Well, he didn't get hit that much this year. So to me, it's either 2 things. It's either really bad coaching on the part of Gerard Johnson, who's the quarterback coach, who's been with him from the beginning, or that concussion from the Jets fucked him up. And that's something we haven't really discussed. And he's now had 2 of them, right? Because he had a pretty bad one. He missed 3 games with a fucking concussion this year. So he's had now 2 really bad concussions. Is that part of the problem as well?
Possible, but I'm gonna go a different direction here, Tim. What family of offense did Bobby Sloak run?
It was from the Kubiak family, right? The
The
zone read.
the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
So, a couple of things with the West Coast. The West Coast does not have the quarterback make a lot of decisions at the line. You call the play, you run the play, and there are not a lot of option routes, check routes. Basically, it's like old-fashioned, stick in the dirt, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to go here. This is my first read, this is my second read, this is my third read. Now, the criticism of that offense was that if your defense overloads, one side or the other, your quarterback doesn't have as much capability to check down. I mean, we saw that back in the Kubiak days where Matt Shaw really was not able to check plays at the line of scrimmage. And so you were just like, oh, shit, here it comes, right? But he performed better in that offense. Maybe because he's smart enough to make those changes at the line of scrimmage? Is he smart enough to sit there and know, hey, maybe holding on to the football and trying to wait for this 20 or 30-yard route to develop is not my best play here? And what you could see, and this is what's frustrating, is you could see individual games where he seemingly got it. Like that 49ers game. I mean, that was a thing of beauty where he was like, what was it, 22 or 27 or something ridiculous like that, where it's like, where has this been all year? And then he'll revert back to his old self. And what's making me think here is that even before the concussion, he would alternate games where he would look good and then not look good. And so I'm thinking he's a gunslinger. That's who he is. I mean, could you imagine, like, for instance, Brett Favre running a West Coast offense?
No, but to counter that, why would you hire? Like, I don't know. If you have Brett Favre, you don't hire that. I don't know. I just don't think CJ is a fit for. He's having a hard time fitting himself into the round hole, right? Maybe he is a circle and he sees himself as a square and he keeps trying to go over to the square hole, but he should be in the circle hole. I don't know, right? But it seems to me like either he's refusing to accept coaching because he's getting worse, or the coaching that we're giving him isn't what we need, right? It seems to me like you got a quarterback coach telling him one thing and an offensive coordinator calling plays a different way.
I think the short-term fix is simple. If you're going to keep CJ Stroud, they've already decided they're keeping Kaylee. To me, I think my short-term fix is you jettison Gerard Johnson and you coax Case Keenum into retirement to become a quarterback's coach. I think that's the quick fix. But I don't think that's a long-term fix. And I think the problem is that when they hired Nick Caley, I don't know if this was the D'Amico hire or Nick Caserio hire. Stylistically, he seems to be a D'Amico hire, but everything points to this is a buddy hire for Nick Caserio. I don't think he was hired for CJ Stroud. I don't. And so that's where you're talking about with Brett Favre. Well, you don't hire a guy with Brett Favre to do, well, I don't think they thought in terms of what's best for CJ Stroud. They thought in terms of we think is the best way to win football games. And that is to score 20 points and hold the other team to 17. That's the formula they came up with, which, to their credit, worked for most of the season, particularly in the second half. But you're not going to get the best out of CJ Stroud in this system. Just period.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think there's things, I think they both could come to the middle a little bit, right? Like, because as you said, there were games where he got it, but there's things that, like, as a quarterback coach, I'm looking to clean up, like the short fucking drops that he takes. He'll take a shotgun snap and then just stand right there, which obviously you're too close to the line of scrimmage. You don't set the pocket effectively. You have nowhere to step up from there. So boom, you're in traffic right away. It's been going on for 3 years now. How does your quarterback coach not look at that film with you and go, "Hey, bro, you got to get fucking deeper. You got to get deeper. You got to do this to be able to, have the pocket form properly around you, as opposed to these short fucking drops that you do when your linemen aren't that good. And if you're gonna take a short drop like that, it's got to come out fast. You can't wait for a 20-yard route down the field to develop when you're 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage."
Well, I think that's part of it. I think, the big things that they need to work on with him is, and you can look at turnovers, and turnovers are a thing, but there were a number of instances where it just took the play too long to develop in the huddle. And so that's a question of, is it taking Nick Caley too long to call a play? Or is it taking, Stroud too long, to communicate the play? Because if you're not getting to the line of scrimmage until 10 seconds on the clock, you don't have any time for audibles. You're going to have to just run what's there. And there are times, to me, if you look at the complaints against D'Amico, I think the biggest complaints are clock management, right? Into halves, into games. What are we doing? Well, as an offensive coordinator, you can't be playing checkers. You got to be thinking chess, and you got to be thinking 3 and 4 plays ahead. I'm going to run this one now. I'm going to run this one next. I'm going to run this one next. And you got to have those things just, ready to go. And it seemed like Kaylee at times was like, those guys shooting off fireworks in Trinity, Texas, going like, "Earl, well, I can't read the directions. What am I supposed to do?" Kaylee's got to be, you got to set those fireworks off. Boom, 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 boom. And I don't know if that's completely on Kaylee, or if I don't know if CJ's just not, I hate to say this, smart enough to get that going.
I don't think that's it. I think he has to probably thank his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for having the opportunity to call this play in the huddle. And by the way, we're going to run a zone right 27V, right? So that's an extra 6 seconds right there. First of all, guys, I want to thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for letting us pick up 2 yards right there and have a 2nd down and 8. We're just lucky to be here. Oh, by the way, we're running trips right, I formation, Z waggle on 2. All right. And then, 10 seconds.
I'd like to thank, Ed Ingram, Lord and Savior, for having Ed Ingram not completely blow that block and have our running back tackle 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Thank you for a 2nd and 8, not a 2nd and 13. That's, but no,
I don't think it's that he's not smart enough. I do think that this was Kaylee's first season of calling plays. I do think there were some it didn't get in fast enough. I think we could have been better at that. And I think if you look at this season's opening drives, I don't think our scripted plays were very effective to start the game, right? Like I feel like most of our offense came as the game wore on. It was very rare that we went down the field on the opening drive and scored a touchdown.
Well,
Like those are supposed to be the ones that you fucking practiced all week, that you've got lined up, that you're ready to go. These are my scripted fucking plays, and our scripted plays sucked.
well, it got better as the year went on. I mean, obviously that the Chargers game was like a
One game.
but I think so. You look big picture, Kaylee. They're 13th in points scored. I mean, that's
It's not
above
bad for a first year guy.
that's above average. They committed the fewest turnovers in the regular season of any team in the NFL. They cut it down to I think 22 sacks, which was less than
Much better.
cutting more than half.
It was 50 something last year.
Yeah,
Wasn't it 53?
and fewer and also fewer negative plays, right?
Yeah.
Just in general. So I think Kaylee did the job. I think Kaylee's going to be better in year 2, and I think Stroud's going to be better in year 2 of the Kaylee system. I think all that's true. And the most encouraging news, and I don't know if you heard this. So two bits of encouraging news. Number one, Tank Dell is working out, and they're hoping he will be back by the start of minicamp in April.
I did see that.
And they said that Joe Mixon was putting his best foot forward in terms of rehabbing. Which, if you have a best foot, that means you have both feet. So he is not missing a foot. So
the amount of people in the comments on that when he said that was like, he's trolling us because he said foot. And then someone else was like just the amount of people who are like, he shot himself. He absolutely shot himself in the foot. That's like there's like 25 people who posted that like Joe Mixon shot himself in the foot.
Well, and if you listen to Nick to Casario's comments on that, basically he said it was a freak thing. So, and something he's never experienced as a GM. So
he's not. You're not telling me he didn't shoot himself in the foot.
Read between the lines, however you want to on that one.
So let's look back at the Plaxico situation. The only reason we found out is because he lived in a state where like you're not supposed to have a gun, right? He lives in New Jersey. There's a lot stricter gun laws, so he gets arrested for the gun part of it. If you were to accidentally shoot yourself in the foot in Texas, you did nothing illegal, right? Like that, you can have that gun. So the police part of it's not going to come out. And if you do a good enough job covering up the, publicity of you going into the hospital, you could just be like, hip them, motherfuckers. It's a foot.
That's some fancy foot shooting, son.
He's got a lower extremity issue if you go by the Astros diagnosis process.
But I mean, and obviously he's got one more year in his contract, so it's not going to be exceedingly difficult to get out from under that one. I mean, they could easily cut him, and
I think he's gone.
And so I think getting any running back in here, whether it be like a Breece Hall or whether it be a rookie in the draft, is going to be better than what Mixon gave you. And I think if you get 80% of Tank Dell, I mean, you're obviously a big Coug, so this is, this, yeah.
You like my new sign?
So this is a loaded question for you. But if you get 80% of Tank Dell, where does that put him on the pecking order of the depth chart?
I think he's cut at 80%.
You think he's cut at it? He's cut?
Yeah. I think what makes Tank, Tank is a phenomenal tactician on his routes. Don't get me wrong. Tank runs a great route. But it's his explosiveness and his ability to go high point the ball at his size that makes him special, right? Like he's not super big. He's actually undersized, but you can still run a fade route to the corner of the end zone for Tank Dell because he can go up and get it. So if you're telling me that he's at 80% and he's not explosive and he doesn't have that, I'm going to beat your ass off the line of scrimmage or I'm going to run a really good stop and then go. I just don't like, I think Tank's got to be like, if he can't be Tank, he's a liability out there to himself and to the team.
Well, and I think what's going to be more likely, when you look at those kinds of injuries, is I think he's probably going to get pretty close to 100% of his straight line speed. I think that's probably, probably likely. And I think if he does that, I don't think there's a receiver on this core that's faster than Tank Dell.
No, if he can just be a deep shot guy, like he runs deep posts, or he's there for screen passes. Like if you could use him like you did Will Fuller early on in his
Yeah,
career,
I think he
that's
could be
fine.
that. I think he could be that. And I think Christian Kirk is gone. Um, he did, catch 2 touchdowns. Hey, in the playoffs, good, good for you.
Where was that all year?
Way you to earn you some money there, but hey, that's okay. If I want you to show up for 2 games, I would rather them be in the playoffs than any other time in the year. So good for you. But I think the key is going to be what do we get from Higgins in year 2? Are we going to see any kind of development from him? Because I think he was about like a 40 catch guy this year, which is it's not bad for a rookie. He had like 6 touchdowns, so he's probably a pretty effective
And I
red
thought he
zone.
came on strong in the second half very well too, right? Like if you look at those 40 catches, how many of them were after week 8, right? 32 of the 40 were
Yeah.
after week 8.
So if he turns into a 50 or 60 catch guy, I mean, I think that's reasonable. I think Jalen Noel, I think
I think you could have 2,000-yard receivers next year with Nico and with
well,
Higgins.
obviously that depends on whether we're still running Stone Age or not. But
Sure.
I think I would love to see. I think Nick Chubb is gone.
Yes.
I,
Needs to be gone. Appreciate your services, but you're running in sand.
I think I would love to see them pick up a second round running back, maybe third round.
The one I wanted said he's going to stay in school, man. That kid from Miami, Fletcher Jr.
Oh God, yeah, that guy
He
was
would have
great.
been great. He would have been fantastic, but he said he's going back to Miami.
Is the Ole Miss back coming out?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at who all's out. I've watched a lot of the Miami playoff run just because of the times that the
Yeah,
games were on.
yeah.
And I was like, man, this kid's he's a physical MFer.
The Ole Miss back is pretty good. I was impressed with him. So that's another guy. I think Notre Dame has 2 backs. One of them is going to be a top 10 pick, but the other guy,
Yeah, we're not going to get Love.
I've heard the other guy is maybe a second or
The
third
other one would be
round
a good one.
target. So I think there are guys to get. And what you do is you kind of look at, okay, what does Marks give us? And then how do we best complement that? And I think that's kind of what you look for. Because if you just get another Marks, I don't think that's really going to be your best bang for buck. But if you get somebody who could be a little bit more in between the tackles, that would just be a nice combination to have.
I agree. I think that Marks did pretty well in between the tackles, but I do think that getting him out in space on more stretch zone read, um, swing, screen, things like that out there probably better fits his game. And I just you can never have too many good running backs realistically in the NFL, right? Like they're going to get hurt. It's part of the game. Marks got dinged up in that game and was unavailable. Then Nick Chubb gets dinged up, and then Marks comes back in. And I mean, as bad as CJ was, like we had 0 running game on Sunday,
No,
0.
yeah, and I think what Marks I think demonstrates is Marks is a guy that is not going to gain 100 yards 8 times a season. But he's a guy that in certain weeks, maybe once a month, can go off and have a great game. And so to me, if you could have an offense where you have another guy that could do that and they could alternate, because obviously Marks was great against Pittsburgh. I mean, that was his best game of the year running the football. But I don't know.
The holes were great against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like Marks to me is a guy, he's as good as the holes that you create. Like I think he picks right. He makes the right read. He picks up the extra yards that are there. But he's not a guy like Mixon. Our offensive line was shit last year. And he still felt like he found ways to get yards that weren't there. Arian Foster is another example. Like you knew Arian was going to get a bill every game, right? Like our line changed over the years, the scheme changed over the years, but you knew Arian Foster was going to rip off a bill, and if the line was really cooking that day, he could go for 2. Like there are some guys that the floor is just higher because that talent level is higher. They're going to find a way to get their yards. To me, Marks isn't that guy. Marks is a guy he will get the most out of what is in front of him, but I don't think he's a game-changing running back who you have to game plan for because he's going to find his no matter what.
And losing Brown on the line before the game is a huge blow.
Yeah,
Because that means Titus Howard has to go back to tackle. It means Jarrett Patterson has to go in and play guard.
and so Titus Howard gets hurt mid-game or early on in that game, and now
Blake Fisher out there, which Blake Fisher's not terrible as a swing tackle, but he's not a starting quality tackle right now. And I think what you got to do is, number one, I would re-sign Ed Ingram. I thought he was perfectly fine at that one at right guard, but I think you upgrade left guard and you upgrade center. And to me the thing is that I don't know. Unless he's got some pictures of D'Amico, I don't know what Juice Scruggs is doing on this football team. They obviously don't want to play him. And to me, if you have you can only suit up 8 or 9 guys on the offensive line on Sunday. And so to me, if you have a guy that you say, for the love of God, don't put this guy in, what's he doing on your football team?
No, I agree. Especially it comes out today that Casero says the center was playing basically on one leg for half the season, right? Who are you helping at that point? If you've got a good quality backup behind him, he should be able to step in and give a better performance than a peg leg out there at 300 pounds, right? Like, I don't know about you, Scott, but I feel like part of being an effective blocker is having like a good center of gravity and being able to push and all those other things. And 2 legs are kind of a prerequisite for being able to do that successfully. So,
and he wasn't that good with 2 legs.
No, so I'm with you on Scruggs, right? Like if you can't beat out a fucking injured one-legged guy, you got to go. But there's some good centers in this draft. I think this is actually a decent draft offensively outside of the quarterback position. And if you're not looking quarterback like the Texans aren't, you can pick up some talent. They've gone heavy defense in the draft over the last few years. You don't have a ton of need defensively over there, right? Like there's some things you'd love to get if it's available. Yeah, sure. But you're going in there hoping to make this offense better. If we're going to ride with CJ, I think you have to look at what San Francisco had at their height of their quote unquote power, which is at any given time, you've got 4 guys on the field who are, potentially all pro level at their position between Ayuk and Debo Samuels and Greg Kittle and Trent Williams, but also the running back McCaffrey, right? Like you've got to have that level of talent if you're going to have a CJ Stroud as your quarterback. I feel like I don't think what I felt leaving that game is CJ don't have that dog in him. CJ don't have that dog. And that's just who he is, right? Like there are certain guys, because he talked like not having your A game, all that other shit. Scott, you played golf. Like sometimes you tee it up and you don't have your best shit that day in a tournament, right? But you had to find a way to make it around the course and still score. You didn't just say, fuck it, I'm going to rip big dog, even though it's going 80 yards right, shoot 125, hand the card in and go, sorry, coach, just really didn't have it today. Like, no, like you took out the fucking 5-iron and you hit it. You did something, right? Like you're trying to find something that works and grind out a score, grind out something. And, Brady's had games where you could tell Brady didn't quite have it, but he still found a way to keep his game, keep the team in it, make some winning plays, things like that. Peyton Manning took a team to the Super Bowl with his arm fucking dangling off basically at the point that he was out there. couldn't throw it more than like 15 yards down the field. They won the fucking Super Bowl with a defense that I think you could equate to what the Texans had this year, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think those defenses are on par with each other, and they won a Super Bowl with a guy whose mind was the thing that did it, not the arm. They limited what they did offensively. They knew he can't throw it that far down the field, and they found a way to win on their defense and not turning it over. So, but that team had Sanders on one side of the football, Demetrius Thomas on the other. I'm sorry, yeah, Tom.
Yeah, yeah, I know. You want to,
Wes Welker.
Yeah, he ended up coming to Houston.
Yeah,
that one
he's
guy
passed away now, unfortunately. But Demarius Thomas is who I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But no, like you had weapons all around. You had Julius Thomas, the tight end, who had some huge seasons there. Like those teams were stacked because Peyton's, not exactly who he used to be. You had a guy like Wes Welker who you could get the ball to quickly in the flat because Peyton's arm sucked, and you could let him work his way down the field, right? Well, hey, Jalen Noel, how about we get you involved, 2 yards past the line of scrimmage on these quick hitters and let you shift your way down the field. Like we have to be better, Scott. Long story short, we got to move on.
Yeah.
But this team has to be better. Let's real quickly talk about this Red Sox trade debate that is out there right now. You and I have gone back and forth, but I think it's looking increasingly likely that Paredes will be the starting third baseman for the Red Sox, and Jalen Duran, through one package or another, is going to end up here at Houston, Scott.
Well, we hope so. And I've seen a lot of iterations of deals, Tim. I've seen them mention Wilyer Abreu instead of Duran. Maybe for Paredes straight up. That might be a little bit more, the Astros speed, depending on, what else they're demanding. I've heard Brian Bello as a starting pitcher instead of those hitters. To me, there's an old axiom, and I don't know if you buy into this, Tim, but there's an old axiom that the team that picks up the best player is the team that won the trade. Is that something you buy into?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the most part.
I mean, Duran is the best player in that trade.
I'd agree.
So you would have to get last year 4.7 WAR, arguably even better the year before. So I mean, you're talking about a guy 15 to 20 home run power is not going to, at least so far. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched him play. I don't know how he would profile in Minute Maid Park, but it seems like to me, Minute Maid Park and Fenway are about as similar as you can get in terms of dimensions. I mean,
yeah,
sure.
I think you might actually pick up a homer or two in left because the walls aren't as high, but maybe you lose a homer or two in right because the pesky pole is at like 285 down the line. So, I mean, I feel like it's maybe 2 homers to the left field side because you just didn't get up high enough, and maybe you lose 2 homers to the right field side because it was a fly out in Minute Maid Park.
But as we were talking in text, what it makes this deal most exciting is the fact that Paredes is, by all accounts, a below average defender, and he's probably a below average defender anywhere you put him. His value is that he can be below average at 3 different positions. He can be below average at third, first, and second. But make no mistake, the metrics say that he is below average at all those spots, and was last year at third. I think he was sure-handed. I don't think he didn't boot many balls over there, but his range is not, maybe what a Cabrian Hayes range would be, or something, or even say Correa, who's got the gun that Paredes doesn't have, right? But you stick Duran in left, you stick Myers in center, you stick Smith in right. It is not hyperbole to suggest that you have 3 potential Gold Glovers there. And that's something that you have to consider with this pitching staff, because this pitching staff, I'm sorry, after Hunter Brown, is not going to necessarily blow people away outside of maybe he might be that guy. but we're not going to see dominant performance after dominant performance. We're going to have to rely on throwing strikes, getting ground balls, getting short fly balls, and having fielders go get it.
I mean, yes, for the most part. I mean, Hunter Brown's a strikeout guy. I don't think we know what Amaya is yet, but certainly with some of those pitches, he could be a guy who is overpowering. Um, and then from there, Christian Javier, I think we do need him to get guys to swing early and to do soft contact. I think that's when he's at his best, right? That fastball is just. I don't want him throwing a lot of them to hitters deep in counts, right? Like if you can get off on it early and be off a second and roll over one, great. If you see 4 or 5 of them in at bat, that's when I start to worry with Christian Javier. Um, and Blue Ball, he's got great stuff, Scott. I don't know about him. He could be a K guy. He could be, a guy who just blows up bats and gets weak contact. But from what we saw, I saw elite stuff.
I think I see him as the heir apparent to Brian Abreu. That's where I see him.
Okay.
And because I think obviously the fastball is going to play a lot more, when you're only pitching 1 inning.
Yeah.
And I think, he's a guy because, I made this comparison because I think his stuff is kind of similar to Hunter Brown. And you remember what Hunter Brown did in 2023. He came up in gangbusters in 2022, threw some very important innings in September. I don't know if he pitched in the postseason at all out of the pen.
I think he pitched early in like the divisional round, maybe, but that was it.
But he was nails in September.
Oh, he pitched in the World Series. He pitched in the World Series because I remember them talking about how he grew up loving Justin Verlander. I think he pitched in the game after.
Was that the McCullers game? Yeah.
Yeah.
So mop-up duty. But anyways, came up brilliant in 22 in short time. And then in 23, he pitched about 150 innings, but his ERA was around 5. And so to me, what worries me about Blue Ball is that I don't think he's had that workload ever. And that's the problem with this rotation, right, Tim, is that Hunter Brown's the only guy they have that's thrown 100 or more innings at the major league level in a season. Burrows came up short. Imai's obviously done it in Japan, but we don't really know what that's going to look like. Javier has done it before, but obviously he's been out with TJ. Arrighetti looked really good to finish off 2024, but his elbow might be held together by bazooka chewing gum and some baling wire. I don't know. I mean, and that's why that's the only thing that if somebody said, "Hey, you're getting Bello instead of Durant," the only thing I would sit there and say is that I don't think Bello is a number 2 starter, but he is a guy that you could count on for 150 innings. And this rotation's short of those guys.
I do agree with that. I like the idea of expanding it a little bit more. You've mentioned giving up Abreu in that trade. I don't love that. But I do think expanding it, getting Bello, getting Duran. I don't mind if Aaron Getty's part of the swap. I'm also concerned about that elbow and just I don't know. I don't think he has elite stuff. His stuff isn't amazing, and guys like that scare me at this level, right? At this point in baseball's progression, right? You max out for 5-6 innings and then you're done versus, you don't have Greg Maddux who works his way through a game for 7 or 8 innings. The Jamie Moyers of the world can't last in Major League Baseball anymore. So if you don't have 95, 96 and a big yacker to go with it, I just don't know how you play. And to me, he's a 92, 93 guy. Maybe he's a little better off the elbow injury, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Scott.
Well, I think one of the things is he's kind of the pitching version of Christian Walker in my mind. He's a stat nerd. And so I think he's a guy that really buys into the pitching lab. And so he might be a guy that just absolutely flops if he were sent to Boston because, they don't have those guys that, maximize what you have, sit there and say, hey, guys are doing this. He started to figure it out. The big thing with him has always been, I think, command more than stuff. When he got started, he was, maybe 3, 4 walks a game. And last year, he just never quite got there. But yeah, he doesn't have Hunter Brown stuff. But then how many people do? That's just not, I think Imai has that kind of stuff. So, I mean, hopeful on him. But then you mentioned guys like, what are you going to get out of Jason Alexander? I mean,
I don't know. I think expecting anything out of him this year
yeah, I mean,
is a fool's errand, right? Like I think last year was fool's gold. He was fine. He 8 innings. But if you go into the year and you're like, Jason Alexander is my 3, you are fucked.
well, and here's my question, Tim, and this before we get to awards, right? Because this is probably a more of a lengthy conversation. What do you do with LMJ?
Um, I mean, I think he needs to be DFA'd, quite frankly. I mean, you bring him to camp and maybe a full off season, he looks a lot better. I don't know. You give him his opportunity in camp, but if he gets lit up like a Christmas tree in spring training, there's only 1 year left on that deal. You're paying it either way. I say, hey man, I appreciate everything you've done for this organization, but like we've got bigger aspirations, and I can't afford to give you one of my 26 roster spots because I'm gonna have to be forced to use you in a game, and we're gonna lose that game.
Well, and the line that I came up with in one of the private chats is that somebody asked that question, where's LMJ, in the rotation? I said he's making HEB commercials.
Yeah, you want to. Hey, this is a great time to look into other things that you're passionate about. Have you ever thought of directing?
And the thing is that he is an absolute great dude.
Yeah.
I mean, the story. In fact, if you look at my Facebook feed, I mean, my cover photo for years was a picture of him and I think about 7 or 8 year old Ann with him and Luis Valbuena when they came down to NASA. I mean, perfectly nice guy in person. I mean, you've told stories about him and what he's done in the community. And, to me, I think everybody, 99% of the world should agree that anybody threatening him or his family is a scumbag.
Yes.
And to me, anybody threatening any professional athlete, any athlete, is a scumbag. Yeah, we're all upset that CJ Stroud stunk it up, but nobody should threaten them. I mean, it's a game at the end of the day, and everybody I think has had a bad day at the office. I think everybody has, where things just didn't go right. Fortunately, we didn't have 70,000 people in attendance watching it with millions of people watching on television. Fortunately for us. I mean, I'm sure, you mentioned on the golf course, there are days on the golf course where I didn't turn in a 125, but it kind of felt like I was about to. And I couldn't imagine a full gallery of people sitting there saying, we're going to kill you, man, because we bet $5 on you. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I'm thankful for everything Lance did here. He's an integral part of 2 World Series championships. But you know as well as I do that Father Time is undefeated, and every athlete has to hang it up at some point. And unfortunately, for many of them, it comes before you really want to because your body just can't do it anymore. And I think at the major league level, at least at this point, it's done for Lance. Like if he really wants to just keep pitching because he loves the game, I appreciate that and I respect that. And quite frankly, that's why independent baseball exists. There are plenty of people in St. Paul, or they don't have that, or Cleburne, or Kansas City with with their team there, or Sioux City, Sioux Falls. Any one of them would love to have Lance McCullers on their team.
Pittsburgh.
If you, if, No. I wouldn't subject
Never.
Lance to that. I wouldn't subject Lance to having to play for the Pirates. I think he'd be better off playing for a team like Cleburne. But no, at the end of the day,
Senator.
it's time, right? Like, I love Lance for what he's done. I love him as a person. I don't want to watch him pitch anymore.
Okay. Are we ready for some awards?
It is. Let's give one away. How about the POW right in the Kisser Award? Scott, who do you
Okay,
have for us
so
this week?
we were just talking about an absolute pros pro who I think even last year when he was just dog shit as a pitcher for most of the year, you could tell Lance was giving it everything he got. Absolutely everything he had. And so if there is one thing that I cannot respect somebody that phones it in. And I can't respect that out of teachers who back up the truck on payday to pick up their check and don't give the effort, and they're making 60 grand, 70 grand. What I absolutely cannot respect is somebody who's pulling in 8 figures a season to call a football game that can't be bothered to do the research necessary to get basic facts right. Now I'm looking at you, Tony Romo. And at the beginning, you mentioned it. We talked about him last week about how at the beginning he was able to call plays, he was able to recognize plays, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, he's Nostradamus that he can figure out what a team's going to run." But as you also pointed out, I mean, the further away you get removed from the game, you can't possibly. And it's like these guys, some of the guys that I hate, and commentating on baseball, for instance, Harold Reynolds is one of them that I was like, just please go away.
David Justice was that one for me.
Yeah, and but to me, if you do your research, I can understand people that are not necessarily great at delivery. Like, I'll give you a guy. Steve Sparks was unlistenable when he first started doing radio with the Astros. But what you can tell is that Steve Sparks has worked on his craft and he's gotten better. I mean, he started off sounding like it was the guy Marty from Major League where he'd go, "Fly ball."
Caught.
God.
Dynamite commentary, Monty. That
So,
broadcasting school has really paid off.
but he's gotten better at it because you've done it, Tim. I mean, you know that your first game, you're probably, you look back and you think I was dog shit, but you get better at it.
And what a lot of people don't think about too, Scott, is Robert Ford takes off the middle innings and does color, and he has to call. Sparky has to call 3 innings of play-by-play. The odds are, as former knuckleballer that you haven't done a lot of that. So you're learning, number one, how to be a reliable analyst on air and when to interject and when to come in and when to bring a stat and when to make a joke and when to play off of Robert and all those other things. And you've got to learn how to pace a game, because that's the hardest part about broadcasting, is pacing the game on the radio specifically. And that's something that most people who think they could do it, that's the thing they fuck up the most, is just understanding the pacing of a game.
Right. And so I expect people to get better as they get more experience. Tony Romo's getting worse. He is actively getting worse because he's getting further away from the game. He doesn't know the guys as well, and he doesn't study. So CBS, hear me, don't have this crew doing the Super Bowl in 2 years. Please, God, no. I mean, that's going to be unlistenable. And that's why he's getting my pal right in the kisser.
No, I agree. I've been on the Tony Romo sucks train for at least 2 or 3 years now. I think Greg Olson is much better. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I always liked Dan Fouts. I thought Dan Fouts did a nice job when he was the color guy that we got. But Romo's lazy. Like, there's no way around it. He's a lazy broadcaster. And as someone who got my shot but not at the level I felt I deserved. Maybe I'm wrong, whatever. COVID happened and I didn't get to play that out the way I thought I would. But, as someone who would kill for that opportunity, right? It pisses me off at an unbelievable level. Joe Buck's the same way for me. I can't stand Joe Buck. I don't feel like he's good at what he does. I don't feel like he does a nice job, and I think his voice sucks. But I think a great example is like Brady is not allowed as an owner to go visit like team facilities and conduct interviews and do all these other things that some of the other broadcasters can do. He's still better than Romo. He still does a better job than Tony Romo does. Romo was an NFL quarterback. Why did Tony Romo never talk about throwing in the wind? Why did it take till Tom Brady to get in the booth to be like, oh, you have to angle the football down when you throw in the wind? And all of America's like, oh my fucking God, this is great, Tom. Thank you. Like Romo could have done that. Romo could have done he just doesn't seem to want to accept like what his crown is, right? Or what his role is. I think Aikman accepted a little bit better, right? Like you're a broadcaster. That is what you are. You're not a guy who has a bunch of hobbies and one of them is broadcasting. Like, no, you are a professional broadcaster. Take it seriously. And I don't feel like he does. Like we hear all about his US Open pursuits every year and everything that goes with it. And I'm not going to fault a guy for going to play golf, but I don't think it's wrong to say he puts more into his golf game than he does his broadcasting.
Yeah, and he's getting paid. What was it like? Maybe was it $20 million a year or something like that? Something like
I don't know the numbers, but I think it's time for just a refresher in general on some of our color analysts, Scott. Like if you look around who does color on NFL games of primetime games now at this point, the CBS game of the week is Romo. Most people at least know who he is. Then you go to Thursday Night Football, and I believe Kirk Herbstreit is the color analyst.
Yeah.
Okay, he's fine. Now let's look at the rest because here's where I really have a problem. Sunday Night Football.
Oh God.
Let's not even talk about Chris Collinsworth as a broadcaster because I think he's a blowhard. But how about the fact that like a majority of people who watch football, like my wife, don't even realize that Chris Collinsworth was a former NFL receiver because we're so far fucking removed from his NFL career. How about we get somebody with a little bit of fucking relevance into the last 10 years, 15 years of the NFL? Greg Olsen would be a great person for that role. Again, he's phenomenal. But no, we've got Chris Collinsworth, who was a receiver for the Bengals in the 80s. Like, okay, you had your time in the sunshine. Get the fuck out. Now let's look at ESPN Monday night. Joe Buck, who I fucking think sucks, and Troy Aikman. Okay? If you're going to have Romo, let's get the other Cowboys quarterback out of there. We don't need that shit anymore. Again, most people who watch football did not ever watch Troy Aikman actually throw a ball. I think we're past the point of people who enjoyed Aikman's career being mainstream football consumers at this point. The generation has shifted. Let's get some fresh blood in there. So I agree with you, but I'm going to expand mine, Scott, and I'll co-sign with you on the Pals and just say a majority of the broadcasts suck this week. I really don't think many of them do a good job. Chris Collinsworth is terrible. Brady's okay, but again, he's not allowed to go to team facilities and do interviews and do all these other things that other broadcasters are allowed to do because he's an owner of the Raiders. So he's calling games with a hand behind his back, essentially.
Well, and I'll just give you a comment that comes from Janet, and not from me. And to me, you mentioned last week how Hannah McNair was talking about 48% of football fans are women. Janet, when she watches Chris Collinsworth, she says, can you just rent a room and just go blow Tom Brady already for Chris? I mean, because like he has to mention him like 10 or 15 times, even when it's a game that doesn't involve the Patriots. It's like, or the Bucks, why are we bringing up Tom, but yeah.
Now he does it for Mahomes, right? Like see that throw Stroud made? That looked a lot like Patrick Mahomes. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, man, he's so good. He's so fucking good, guys.
Well, what kills me is that there are some absolute dynamite play-by-play guys. Like Kevin Harlan is a joy to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tirico, I think, is really good as a play-by-play guy. But you're sandbagging him. Al Michaels probably needs to hang it up.
Yeah, I'm
But,
done with Al Michaels.
but
But Nance is always going to be a baller. I think Romo brings down my boy Nance.
yeah, and so to me, you got the play-by-play talent. You just don't have the color commentating talent to go with it.
Is it fair to say that Romo's broadcasting career indicative of the playing career? Came in high, a lot of high expectations the way he started off. Oh, this is our guy. And then just never really materialized into the championship level quarterback that the Cowboys are hoping for. I think the broadcast career is the same. Like high
And
expectations when he came in. This is our guy. Let's pay him big money. He's so good. And then next thing you know, he just doesn't ever materialize.
and what was the knock on him as a player?
Was it they didn't work hard enough?
Yep.
You
Gee,
don't
go
say.
figure. Go figure. All right, Tim.
Let's do a horse's ass, Scott, because I co-signed with you on our broadcast this weekend. That was pretty terrible. Who do you have as your horse's ass of the week?
I feel really bad about this because I don't want I'm going with the original intent of the award here, Tim. I think I'm out on CJ Stroud. And I think you mentioned some of the key issues there. And I think, and a lot of it, like you go back to like Kansas City last year. What does he do when Tank Dell goes down?
Cried. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with the fact that his game deflated after that.
I get, yeah. It's just the lack of emotional strength, right? Because I get, I get mistakes. Drake May made mistakes. He had what, 3 or 4, fumbles.
Yeah.
We
We just didn't fall on any of them.
We fell on one, I think. But I think, but Drake, he turned the ball over 3 times. He had that interception at the end of the first half. So, we managed to do some things to Drake May. So Drake May didn't have a perfect performance, but did you see Drake May crumble?
No. He rallied.
And so I like CJ. And I think CJ, the situation that I had pegged for him, which I think would be perfect for him, is Minnesota. I mean, could you imagine him throwing to Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, and it
And
would
they had
work.
some,
But then you're pissed off because the guy that you just traded away is killing it.
but the thing is that, and I've said this a number of times for any trade, what matters is what he's going to do here. He may go ball there, but it's not going to happen here because you run ball control. And I don't even think that that's necessarily wrong, but it's time to embrace it and say, we need a quarterback that's going to fit this. And, there's some guys that are going to be on the free agent heap. You mentioned Mac Jones. I think he could be, a perfectly, capable guy for a year until you figure things out. I mentioned Marcus Mariota. His numbers actually turned out to be better than what I thought they would be. All of them, and then all the guys I mentioned, I think, Malik Willis was another one we've talked about before. And there was a 4th guy. Oh, yeah. A name you're not going to like, but Carson Wentz.
No, thank
But
you.
all 4 of them had better completion percentages than Davis Mills. So to me, you could sign a guy that's better than Davis Mills. You can sit there and say, hey, they're going to compete, And the beauty is that if you traded them, you probably get a first rounder, no worse than a second rounder, which is should be a good football player for your team. You're saving all that money. So that means that a Will Anderson extension is not a problem. That means in the coming years, Kamari Laster extensions, not a problem. And then, whatever else you develop on offense, if you want to sign a free agent guard or free agent center, you could do that as well. And so it's not so much that I dislike CJ. I just don't think Houston is the place for him.
No, I tend to agree with you. You can't spend that much money on a quarterback if he's not going to be a guy who can go win you football games, right? Like if I'm going to spend 40 to $50 million on a quarterback, which is what franchise guys are going for in the NFL this year or these days, that's got to be a guy that if I'm down 4 points in the fourth quarter, go get it, right? Like I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to lead me down the field. That's your Josh Allen's, your Lamar's, your um, Mahomes, your Burrows, right? Like, but now all these other guys are getting these deals too. Like, is Purdy that guy? Do you trust him more? Like, but he's getting paid like one. I mentioned Darnold earlier. I thought he'd be cheaper. He got $100 million in salary and then a 50 million, 133, I think it is, with the guarantee. So he's getting 40 something a year. So it's really hard to build a complete team when you've got to pay a guy that much money. It's very, very hard to do. And if you don't draft well, it's even harder. So I agree with you on that one. I don't know if I may have softened my stance a little bit, but I do have some serious concerns about the future, and I would not be handing him um, a long-term extension at this point.
All right. So who you got, Tim?
I have two this week, Scott. I'm gonna go a smallish, secondary one first. And I hate to do this, Scott. It's you, Scott Barzilla. In-game chatter from you during the last two Texans playoff games. I tried to get a little something going in
Oh,
it was awful. Lack of response. Try and get a little chatter going during the game. And you were just not answering, one word answer. Okay, yeah,
unfortunately, I'm on
not your best chatter the last 2 weeks. I'm just gonna put it out there.
I'm on that other chat group, and unfortunately,
your other friends. Okay.
the ones that pay me, Tim.
He had to hang out with his other friends, guys. It's
That
okay.
pay me.
No, that's that was more of a joking one.
Yeah,
I think this one is more recent. The ownership of the Bills, Terry Pagula, and then the general manager Brandon Bean, right? So obviously they fire McDermott. Whatever you want to say about that decision, right? If it's wrong, if it's right, that's not why I'm having them as my horse's ass this week. The press conference that they had, I believe it was yesterday, where they just throw everything under the bus of McDermott's firing, right? Like, hey, we've got a wide receiver in year two who's still on the roster who's struggling to find his way. Yeah, we didn't really want to draft him. That was actually the coaching staff who pushed for that guy, and it's just the rumors are coming out that Josh Allen is pissed about it. You sent that to me today. You're an organization that, much like the Texans, had a pretty clear path to the AFC Championship game, and for Buffalo, it's been Kansas City that stood in their way so many times where they weren't here, and you had to go to overtime against the Jacksonville Jaguars. You went to overtime. No, you didn't go to overtime against the Jags. You won it at the end, but then you go to overtime against the Broncos, and the call I think was wrong. The call should have probably been a catch, but either way, you lose that football game. Josh Allen turned it over a shit ton as well, and to then get up there and say like, I feel like I made a lot of good decisions, but the coach really fucked them all up, and the one that he really pushed for sucked. It's just very distasteful, and I think you're moving to a new stadium. You're kind of taking the history of that stadium away from Buffalo. I'm sure the new one will be nice. I'm sure it'll be great, but it's just very distasteful, and it's very in line with the billionaire class, if I may. On it's never their fault, and it's always someone who executed wrong. Their plan was perfect, but the execution of it was the problem, and those people are the problem, not me. I'm awesome because I'm rich. The fucking plebes are the idiots, not me. I'm rich. I own the team.
Well, and just as a point of comparison, that last interception, compare that to CJ's interceptions, and they're not even in the same ballpark, right? I mean, that's And that's kind of what, when you're
The
looking at.
fumble before half was pretty stupid, though.
Yeah, well, it was. There was some moments, right? And Josh owned up to it, and CJ owned up to it. So you got to give them their, their props. But gosh, darn it, yeah, I'm. Whenever you fire a guy, I detest anytime this happens, whether it's sports, politics, or whatever. When you blame the guy who's gone, just let the guy go. Make some generic statements. Hey, we're going to do better, and move on.
I couldn't agree more. It just seems so. Is petty the right word?
Oh,
It just
yeah, I think so.
seems really petty and pedantic, and I don't know if that's like the best advertisement for your job posting. Like, hey, do you want to go work for these guys? Right? Like, it seems pretty clear to me that the GM's untouchable, right? Like, I don't think that was a very complete roster. You sent Josh Allen out there with a group of shit receivers, and then when people ask you about it, you're like, well, Tom Brady won Super Bowls with not always great receivers. Well, Tom Brady had unbelievable defenses those years. The years that the offense required him to go win Super Bowls, he had Randy Moss, he had Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, who are literally out there killing it, if you know what I'm saying. Hey, thank you. But either way, like the guy had weapons. Like it wasn't that Brady didn't have weapons. It's that early on in his career, the Patriots were a defensive team as Bill Belichick was a defensive minded head coach. The team evolved. He got weapons. They changed. They ran different types of offense. Josh McDaniels becomes the coordinator. Things change, yada, yada, yada. But you don't just be like, well, Brady did it this way. Well, first of all, Josh Allen's not Tom Brady. I don't know if you realize who's in your quarterback room, but his name's Josh, not fucking Tom. So it just seems so out of touch with reality. Again, like I'm sure plenty of Bills fans were fine with the firing, but then to know like this is how this coaching search is going to go. Ugh.
All right, Tim.
Like Brian Dable's going to get an interview.
Hey, how about some good vibes?
Yeah, I'm down for some good vibes, Scott. Who do you have this week that deserves just that little tiny tip of the cap?
Well, I'm going with a huge tip of the cap to one William Anderson. As small as CJ Stroud was in that game, William Anderson was huge. 3 sacks, the 2 forced fumbles, I think. Is that right? 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Absolutely brilliant performance from him. And he is a guy that the Texans should not hesitate the moment that they can give him an extension, give him his 40+ million a year and do not look back, because that guy balled out this year. He's balled out each of his first 3 years in the NFL. And he's just seemingly getting better each and every year. You got one more year of Daniel Hunter. So you have to make the most of this, Texans fans, because this is the best defensive end duo in the NFL, and probably I would say in the last 20 years in the NFL. But yeah, he deserves praise. He showed up both games, both games in Pittsburgh and in New England. So it wasn't all a bad performance by your Texans. There were some Texans that showed up, and he was chief among those.
No, he played a phenomenal football game, and you can't question anything that Will Anderson did. So that's a great call there. I'm going to go to the hardwood, Scott. And there is no team that I hate losing to as a Rockets fan more than the San Antonio Spurs. And last night, it looked like the Rockets were headed for a third loss of the season against the Spurs. But Reed Shepherd, Scott, with 12 fourth quarter points out of his 22 off the bench, played some great defense, a big steal late in the game. This is a guy that, again, he's not a true point guard. We've been over that. But what he is a guy who could knock down fucking jump shots, and he's been fantastic off the bench. We made a lot of Reed Shepherd-based jokes early on in his career. at his expense. I'll be the first to say we didn't even know if he was real, and now here I am tipping my cap to Reed Shepard for helping the Rockets grab a win out of the just crushing depths of defeat. But they found a way, got the W, and still a chance to salvage the season series with the Spurs.
And you know what else deserves a hat tip from that game is Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant did not score a fourth quarter point because he said, I am going to lock down Wembanyama. And that's not an easy guy to lock down. I mean, Durant is probably about 7 feet tall. I don't think he likes to list himself as 7 foot, but I think he probably is. But he's probably the only guy that has the lateral quickness and the length, to play him. And it took so much energy. He just decided, hey, you guys are going to have to carry the offensive load in the fourth quarter. And it takes somebody that has not only a star mentality, but a superstar mentality to say, like, I don't care what my box score says. I'm going to do what it takes to win this basketball game. And that's what he did.
No, that's what a star does, right? Like a true superstar realizes what the team needs in that situation, and they do it. And if you're the only guy on the court or on the team that's capable of taking this guy out of the game, you got to do it. And I agree with you, Scott. It was an exciting replay to get to watch after getting back from Sawyer's basketball practice late at night. But very, very excited for the win against the Spurs because fuck the Spurs, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Scott. Who is your scumbag?
Speaking of fuck the, I am going to go with fuck the Los Angeles Dodgers, Tim. So here's a stat for you, according to Spock Track, because I'm sure have you gone to that site?
Not recently, but I've been there before.
Okay, so Spock Track basically is the go-to spot if you have a question about a player's contract, right? They have it down to the last detail. Spot Track currently has the Dodgers payroll at $429.9 million. Now, when I looked, this doesn't include recent acquisitions, but as of the Kyle Tucker signing, do you know who was in second place?
The Mets?
The Mets. They were at $305 million. Now, I'm going to estimate they're probably close to maybe 320 because I don't think Robert and Freddie Peralta were making that much money because they're Freddie Peralta's pre-free agency is still in arbitration, so he's probably around the $10 million range. And, I think Robert's around 10 million, so they're probably up to 3. So $100 million gap. There are 6 major league teams, Tim, that aren't spending $100 million, period. One of them that blew me away, but actually makes the most sense, the St. Louis Cardinals are one of them after they have traded away, virtually half their damn team. And I get it. If you're St. Louis, I get it, say like, hey, just give us a year to breathe and to let some bad contracts roll off the books. And we'll come back strong in 2027, assuming there's baseball, because I'm not making that assumption, Tim. I think I'm making the exact opposite assumption, and I don't think we're going to get there. And I think you're picking the same situation, a different guy. I'll have more to comment on that in a minute, but to me, I've had enough of the Dodgers. I've had enough of we're going to defer payments to 2050 or whatever they're doing. I've had enough of this. We're going to pay a signing bonus. Do you know how much annual salary Shohei Ohtani and Kyle Tucker are earning this season combined?
I think Shohei's like 5 or 10. He's 3
combined.
That's insane.
$3 million. I think Shohei is 2 and Kyle Tucker is 1 million, because most of Kyle Tucker's money is coming up front and a signing bonus. He's going to get that during spring training, And so during the regular season, he will earn $1 million. Now, I have to give it to, guys like Manfred for setting up bullshit rules that allow teams to have a huge AAV, but say, oh, we're deferring it in the future, so it doesn't count. No, that's bullshit. That bullshit's going to stop, I think, after the season. But I'm sick and tired of, it's not fun anymore, Tim. It's just not. Because to me, and I know we can't assume the Dodgers are going to win it all this year, but it feels that way. I mean, they added one of the best closers in baseball to a team that was already pretty damn good out of the pen. And they've got, starting pitchers coming out of their ass. And they've got the best player in baseball. They've got probably Mookie Betts is, at least in his prime, was top 5 player in baseball. And you had, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. Then you had Kyle Tucker. They still have Teoscar Hernandez, who they're trying to find a place to put him on that team. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening.
No, it is. And that's why for me, my scumbag is Kyle Tucker, right? Like, I don't think he's getting enough hate in all this. Number one, you just signed a contract which most likely nailed the coffin on the 2027 season, which could potentially cost Jose Altuve 3,000 hits. So if that happens, fuck you. Number two, when Kevin Durant got knocked out of the playoffs by the Warriors as a member of the Thunder, and then immediately went and joined the Warriors, people, and rightfully so, ripped him a new asshole, called him, a piggyback, trying to, just free ride to a championship, yada, yada, yada. But they definitely went after him for, what was essentially taking the easy way out. And I think that's got to be part of the solution here, too, is all these players are taking the easy way out. Kyle Tucker could have got that money from the Mets. Kyle Tucker could have got that AAV from a lot of different places. It wasn't just the Dodgers that were going to offer him big money. But now you're going to tell me, oh, only the Dodgers have a chance to win the World Series. And I want to win, so I'm going to go there. That's fucking bullshit, right? Like, one of the reasons Houston loved Amai when he came here immediately was like, I don't want to be a Dodger. I want to beat the Dodgers. Fuck yeah, let's go. So to have that mindset of like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. Fuck you. Like, we're literally fighting for our lives as a country, and don't want to talk too much about that, but you can't have that mindset. You can't just give up and say, I'll cash out. I'll take the big money and I'll go play for the Dodgers. And, but I'm switching number 23 in honor of Michael Brantley because he was such a big impact on my career. Like, fuck off, man. Like, you have failed to show up in many, many postseasons. You foul the ball off your leg and then disappeared for 6 months. Like, Astros fans were pretty loving to you. And the one thing, even when we trade you away, we still love King Tuck. There's 2 places that you could have gone that would have burned all of that goodwill. The Yankees and the fucking Dodgers. And you picked the Dodgers, and you did it in a way that fucks the rest of the league by saying, no, defer me my money. Like, if I'm going to the Dodgers, I'm at least going to say, pay me my money now. Don't defer that shit. Pay me it now. I want you guys to have to deal with this. But nah, I'll play the game. Yeah, sure. I'll play for $1 million. Yeah, pay me in 30 years. That's fine. Yeah. Like, it's ruining the game of baseball. And again, Kyle Tucker's contract is going to be the one that broke the camel's back. And we're going to miss a year of baseball next year. And it's fucking horseshit. It's absolute fucking horseshit that one team can just disrupt everything this way to the point where we're going to have to lock out. And sadly, I agree with the reasons we're going to have to lock out. Like, I'm typically always on the side of labor. But at some point, you have to say, we need a rule. We need a rule on this. It may not be a salary cap, but either way, we need a rule on deferred fucking money. It counts the same way a regular contract does. And these players should be held accountable by the fans too. No free fucking passes. You guys come after every former Astros player with vitriol. Fuck that. Let's go after every player who goes to the Dodgers and call them sellouts, say their championship are piggybacked, say they wanted a free ride. So, everything that got said about Durant when he went to the Warriors should be said about everybody who signs with the Dodgers now. That's where I'm at.
So I don't know if you saw the text message from inside the Cubs clubhouse on Tucker that I sent you.
I might have missed that one.
So basically, it was basically saying that he was looking at his phone the whole time and was never looking at scouting reports. And that, if you wanted to ask me, like, who would I want in the bunker with me? I don't want this $60 million asshole. Give me the rookie who's going to, go out there and ball out the best he can. I think I told you my idea. Here's my idea for charity, Tim. You make, I would say, 100 of those rubber mannequins. You put a Dodgers Tucker jersey on it, and you put them in HEB. And you tell people, hey, for $1, you can punch Kyle Tucker. And we're going to donate that money to the Houston Food Bank. If you want to hit him with a baseball bat, here's you give me a 10 spot. Here's an aluminum bat. Here you get one whale away at Kyle Tucker. I think
food would be spoiling at the food bank. There'd be so much overflow.
I think that's a winner, Tim.
I tend to agree with you, man. Like, to me, it's the one thing he couldn't do. Don't go do that bullshit the Dodgers are. Don't go play that game, right? Like,
and
I think there are plenty of jobs I could have taken over the one that I have that I would consider selling out, right? Like, there was a time in my life where, like, my brother was trying to get me a job at Raytheon. And I said, absolutely not. Like, I don't care what the salary is. I'm not working for the missile company. I'm not selling out. And so, to me, like, would you go play? Would you, if Darth Vader put together a baseball team, would you go play for Darth Vader just because they're paying more than the other side? Like, that's where we're at. Like, to me, that's where we're at.
Well, what kills me is he's a Boris client, isn't he?
I think he switched to Boris right before his free agency, right before like the second to last year with the Astros.
And here's what Boris did, and this is a stroke of brilliance, and you're probably a scumbag on top of this. I told you about the signing bonus. Yeah. Why is he getting a signing bonus? Because he knows there's a work stoppage next year.
Yeah, Boris got to get his cut, man.
He knows there's a work stoppage next year. So basically it's like saying, here, give me a whole fucking truckload of money up front so I can go deuces whenever, the owners lock us out. And to me, it's not even so much, you said you're usually pro-labor, and I don't even think this is an anti-labor thing. To me, this is an owners versus owners thing, and this always has been. Do you know, you realize like a few years ago, the Braves released their actual revenues?
Yeah, I do.
And you know why they did that?
Because I think they wanted to show people they didn't make as much money as they thought they did.
They're publicly owned. They have to. And so they made $650 million, of which their payroll is usually around, what, $200 million? If that?
If that, yeah.
So you're talking about, in most sports, the NFL and the NBA, players are usually getting between 50 and 55% of the revenues. So you're telling me the Atlanta Braves are paying out 30%? So to me, this is not a owners versus players deal. This is an owners versus owners deal. This is the rich owners saying, fuck you, we're going to do whatever we want. We're not going to give up all of our, regional sports network dollars. So Pittsburgh, you can piss in it. And Pittsburgh's just glad to get the national TV revenue and say, we're not going to spend dick on our team.
We're just happy to be invited, guys. Thank you very much for having us again.
We're happy to make a profit because we're not going to spend anything on our baseball team. You got Denver that doesn't spend any money on technology. And he actually, the owner of the Rockies, actually wants to put a cap on how much teams can spend in tech. Can you imagine that? No, I'm sorry. You're going to need to bring in that Commodore 64. I don't think, this new powerful Mac, man, these Dells and these servers. No, fuck no. You're going to bring in an Apple IIe. That's what you're going to have to run your tech with. I've actually thought about, trading them Jesus Sanchez because they don't use computers, so they don't know what his lefty righty splits are. We lost our spiral notebooks. They burned in a fire. We don't know his lefty righty split. So we're going to give you one of our best prospects because, we think he's going to be great.
That would be funny. But no, I'm with you, Scott. And if this ends up costing Altuve 3,000 hits, I'm going to be pissed. Like, if we could literally look back and be like, well, he's 150 short and he missed one season of work stoppage and then they had COVID. There you go. Like, that's going to really piss me off. So, Kyle Tucker, fuck you. I really did a lot of Kyle Tucker fanboying for a while. I was a big, if nobody got me, King Tuck got me guy. And now King Tuck don't got me. He is not a man of the people.
We will wear our Correa jerseys with love, Tim.
Yeah, Correa. I will never say a bad thing about my guy, even when we got rid of him. But now he's back and he's home, and I love Carlos Correa. I love you, Carlos. I love you, baby. Mwah, mwah, mwah. All right, Scott. That is the end. This is the end, my friend. That's all we got for you. I appreciate everybody who joined us this week. We are now in the heart of basketball season, Scott. It's going to be a lot of Rockets talk as we head towards spring training.
Creeping up on the deadline, too.
Deadline, Cougs. We'll work some Coug basketball in here, too. But that's what we got for you here this week. We appreciate everybody who joined us. We will see you next week on Born on the Bayou Sports.